I did not grow up in a flossing family. I never once flossed. I was never taught to floss. I never saw anybody flossing in my house or saw a single string of floss throughout my entire childhood. My dad did use a lot of toothpicks. He worked for an auto parts company, and he was very good at it. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that he was on the road for 75% of my childhood. As my mom says, he was a good provider. But he was also taciturn, gruff, and prone to sudden, frightening outbursts of anger. And I never got to know him very well. One time he brought home a water pick for me and my brothers. It was a promotional item from a client, some sort of gadget that housed both a water pick and electrical toothbrushes. I was 11 or 12 years old. I remember telling my older brother, I really think I'm going to start brushing my teeth more often now. My brother happily agreed. The exchange was like something out of a ridiculous 70s commercial, complete with polyester plaid pants, scratchy turtlenecks, and bangs. Our enthusiasm for the new gadget soon waned. And just like our enthusiasm for all those other novelty items, toys, and games of our childhood, the slip and slide, the fondue pot, Hungry Hippo, we used these things once or twice, and that was it. For my older brother and I, the water pick experiment lasted a maximum of 2 months. That's not to say that my parents were frivolous, irresponsible, or permissive in any way. Certainly not. But this is what happens when the family dynamic is a model of antiseptic, suburban, guilt-ridden Catholicism. You don't talk about sex. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about religion. And apparently, you don't talk about good dental hygiene. As a result, my family skewed toward a laissez-faire attitude when it came to teeth. My nightly bedtime routine consisted of a goodnight kiss from both mom and dad when he was home until I was 13. A wish, good night, followed by see you in the morning, which was repeated until either parent echoed the sentiment. And finally, a trip to the bathroom for a less than thorough toothbrushing, or possibly no brushing at all, if it was a Monday night in October and I wanted to jump under the covers and turn on the radio as quickly as possible to catch the second half of Monday Night Football. When it came to teeth in my house, the only time we were ever really held accountable was when we went to our dentist, Dr. Sellers. When my younger brother was 9 or 10 years old, he had his first and only cavity. Me, I've got a mouth filled with hard-earned silver fillings. So does my older brother. My younger brother, one filling. The way my mom tells it, a man came in for his appointment while my brother was in the dentist chair. From the waiting room, he heard my brother screaming, like real horror movie screaming, the high-pitched pleading cry of a tortured child. Ah, 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 ah! The man got a terrified look in his eyes and asked, is that somebody in with the dentist? My mom calmly replied, yes, that's my son. The man said, I think I'm going to find another dentist, turned around and left. Dr. Wally Sellers did not use Novocaine. It's my general impression from talking to friends and acquaintances that this was not normal, even for the 70s and 80s. I don't know if he didn't believe in it, if he was too cheap to use it, or if he was a sadist. All three seem equally likely. Drilling without any painkiller of any sort was all I ever knew. I'd lay back in the dentist chair watching All My Children on a 9-inch ceiling-mounted black and white television while Dr. Sellers loomed over me. He was a large man with thick jowls, Coke bottle glasses, and a fading comb-over. His arms were deeply tanned from too much golf. His hands were thick and rough. To me, he was a man in whom there were no soft edges. My dad probably approved. I didn't take great care of my teeth, a poor habit that continues to this day. But you can bet, as the appointed day approached, I brushed. I brushed and brushed and brushed and brushed. I peered into the bathroom mirror, searching, trying to see, were there any cavities this time? But once Dr. Sellers got going with that dental pick, more often than not, I knew it was hopeless. Dig and scrape and scrape and dig and dig and scrape and dig and dig. He'd get that pick into the crown of my tooth and really stick it in. And he'd pull so that I felt like he was going to yank the tooth right out of my mouth. I could tell by how long he stayed on one tooth what the prognosis would be. Another cavity. Just a little one, he promised. Then, a few minutes into the excavation, Dr. Sellers would pause and assess the situation. Mm-hmm. And then he'd mumble, just a little bit more. Whee! Just whee! A little whee! Bit more. And it went on and on, drilling deeper and deeper. His basic strategy was to drill until I made a muted, guttural protest. Then he'd give me a little pep talk to convince me that I really could take a little bit more. And then rinse and repeat until the job was done. And the reward? Oh, yes, there was a reward. A toy ring. Seriously, a ring. My brothers and I would stop at the receptionist desk on the way out. She greeted you with a patronizing smile that said what a brave little boy you'd been, slid open her side desk drawer and pulled out a box of rings. The rings were displayed upright, set in styrofoam, each with a distinct symbol or a faux opaque stone. My brothers and I examined the little treasures with studied deliberation and made our selections with much more care than could possibly be expected of a red-blooded American boy. I'm sure my father would have been embarrassed. They were rings, for Christ's sake. We collected baseball cards like it was our living. We played with fire and were on a never-ending quest to get firecrackers because we yearned to blow shit up. We played army. We played catch with the football until it was too dark to see the ball on cold November nights. What the hell were we going to do with rings? We wore them home. Shoved them in the back of our desk drawers, and certainly never showed them off to our father. I think Dr. Sellers might have terrorized my father as well. I don't know for certain, but there were hints of abuse. I distinctly remember my dad once telling my mom, "Oh, gorilla hands really did a number on my teeth this time." Another thing I know is that my dad didn't see Dr. Sellers very often, that is outside of playing cards with him at the country club. No, he'd put it off until he had a toothache for a couple of weeks. "Honey, get me some Ambisol at the thrift drug, would ya?" Then some more time would pass, and my mom would try to walk the fine line between suggesting and nagging him, "Why don't you have Dr. Sellers take a look at that, honey?" I'm also pretty sure my dad had a history of poor dental hygiene, highlighted by a well-documented sweet tooth. "Honey, pick me up some milk dugs at the thrift drug, would ya?" And a set of dentures, 3 shiny porcelain teeth that often sat in a cup of water on the table next to his easy chair. We never talked about those teeth. I was 37 years old when my father died. I really believe that it was either the dentist or the fear of the dentist that killed him. He'd been sick for months with a really bad cold, a persistent hacking cough that wouldn't go away. And for a very long time, they thought that the illness had something to do with dental health. Since he wasn't much of a regular at the dentist, I guess he must have thought maybe they're right. Maybe it's my teeth that are causing me all of these problems. So he spent a couple of months trying to get his teeth in order, while the cancer in his body built up a healthy head of steam. By the time they got around to treating the colon cancer, it was much, much too late. I never really knew my dad. To be honest, I never gave him much of a chance. I think I was afraid that if we really got to know each other, he wouldn't like me, or worse, that I wouldn't like him and that I would become him. When he died, I hadn't been to a dentist for 11 years, partly thanks to Dr. Sellers, and partly because of fears about poor dental health and what the dentist might find. I wish I could say that at least in his death, I allowed my dad to teach me something. One thing. Kev, don't neglect your teeth. It might kill you. But after he died, it still took me another 10 years before I finally went to see a dentist. Still, this is it. This is one of the most significant connections that my father and I will ever have. Our teeth. This is what we share. Questionable dental hygiene. Dr. Sellers. Our shared fear of the dentist.
That was VAMP first-timer Kevin Manley.